You know, today I'm going to be talking about a new book that's coming out in the fall. It's called A Time to Fly. It's a children's book. So to see if we have the right audience here, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. First question, how many believe that everything happens for a reason, that there are no coincidences out there? So we have the majority that agree to that. Okay. A couple other questions. How many of you have children? Okay. How many of you know of children? And how many used to be a child? Okay, I think I have the right audience here. I live in Seal Beach, and on October 12th, 2011, my little small town, you may have heard about it, experienced an event that changed the course of the history of Seal Beach forever. 8 people were killed in the largest mass murder in the entire area of Orange County that day. But today is not about what happened there. It's what happened afterwards. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how it evolved, and that to me is just as much amazing as the actual story itself. What happened was immediately after the event, 2 days after the event, the sequence began. And what it was I sat down at my yellow legal pad and I began to write this story that I had no idea where it came from. But as a writer of spiritual material, when ideas come through me, I write them down. This was different though. Within days after that event, I sat down and I started to write out this story. And it was like something I'd never even thought of before. And I'll share it with you and see if maybe you find yourself, as I did that day, in some of the words that came out that day. And there came a time when a mother starling took her youngest to the edge of the nest. And they looked out over the horizon. And she said, "Fly." And the youngest said, "You know, I've been thinking about it." And she just said, "Fly." And he said, "Well, you know, I've been watching you and Pop, and I've learned a lot, but I'm not sure it's for me." And she said, "Fly." And he said, "Well, when you were feeding us, I was the shortest, and I didn't get as much as the others." And she just said, "Fly." And he said, "Well, look at me, I have mixed colored feathers. I'm not as beautiful as the pure white egret." And she just said, "Fly." And he said, "Well, the hawk, surely you've seen the hawk attack those as small as me." And she just said, "Fly." And what about the mockingbird? If I don't perform perfectly, he'll swap to all the others about me. And she just said, "Fly." Well, 16 times the little bird came up with excuses why he wasn't ready, from the wind to everything he could think of. But on the 17th time, he flew. Well, as time would have it, I had to fly. The very next weekend, I had to fly to Seattle to visit some friends. And I specifically remember that day, standing out on the dock, looking out over Puget Sound, talking on my cell phone to my friend John, and I was telling him at the time about this very strange story that had come through me that I had written. And as I'm talking to him, a bird comes out of the southwest, and he landed right at my feet. He proceeded to walk around me, and he was no more than this far from me. And I'm telling John, this bird seemingly wants to tell us something. He sat there for a second, and then he took off and flew away. And I'm thinking, this is very strange. So when I got back to the hotel, I looked on the internet. What does a starling look like? I didn't know from starlings. And sure enough, they have mixed colored feathers, a certain tilt of the bill and the tail, and I came to the conclusion that was a starling. So now it's getting real interesting. So that weekend went by, and then I had to fly back home to Seal Beach. Well, I got home to Seal Beach, and within days, I got an email from my friend from Guam. And she said in the email that you have to check out this thing. It's going viral on YouTube. I said, okay, what is it? And I clicked on it. And it was a thing called a starling murmuration. Now you can look it up on YouTube, or you can go to my website at idealselfsystems.com, and I have cards back there for you to take home. You will see that these birds, when they do take flight, do amazing things. Thousands of them join together, and they do this amazing aerodynamic display. They weave together in this one dance. Very perfect example of oneness. Well, what I found out later, as all these sequence events came about, I found out that scientists have filmed these birds with high-speed cameras with the intent of who is the wingman, who is the person or the bird that's causing him to go left and go right. Well, what they found out by slowing down the high-speed filming is that there is no one wingman. They all move as one. Perfect example of what we can do when we all work together as oneness that we all are. Now, a month after this, I also found out that the word fly, the word that this mother bird told her little bird 16 times, was an acronym. It's FLY, forever love yourself. You see, I think that's the message. That's the message we can teach the next generation, or we can teach the inner child within ourselves. That we need to begin to love ourselves. For you see, here's what I've concluded. When you see the world through the eyes of love, you see the world differently. And I also contend, when you see the world through the eyes of love, not only do you see it differently, but you create it differently. And that's the ultimate message of the book, and I think I'd love to have you join me in the process of bringing this book out to the public, to the children, to begin the dialogue between the child and the parent, the discussion. What is self-love? What is that like? So we can touch the children, the next generation, but we can also touch all those parents too. They begin to have to explain, what is self-love really all about? So this fall, or shortly after the first of the year, this book will be out. The artist is working on it right now. We hope to have it available, and you can reach me through the business cards there. So I ask you for your support in telling your children, your children's children, and all the others that you can touch, that this is a big moment in time where we can make a difference, possibly change the way the world sees itself. Thank you.